I threw the photograph away, at least I tried to. The picture disturbed me more than anything I'd experienced at the gas station. Not because it showed the station, not because it showed me, but because it showed me working there on a night when I hadn't been there. I knew exactly where I was when the picture was supposedly taken. I had been attending a study group on campus. There were witnesses, photos, messages, proof. Yet there I was, standing behind the counter, smiling. The smile bothered me most, because it wasn't my smile. It looked almost right, close enough to fool most people, but not me. Something about it felt rehearsed, artificial, like someone had studied me and copied the expression. I burned the photograph that same night. I watched the flames consume it in a metal trash can behind my apartment. The edges curled, the image blackened, the paper turned to ash. I remember feeling relieved, like I'd finally severed whatever connection remained. The next morning, the photograph was on my kitchen table, perfectly intact, no burn marks, no damage, just sitting there, waiting. I didn't touch it again. Instead, I shoved it into a drawer and tried to move on. That lasted 4 days. Then the dreams returned. Only now they were different. I wasn't dreaming about the 8th aisle anymore. I was dreaming about the basement. The problem was that Red Pine gas station didn't have a basement, at least not one I'd ever seen. Yet every dream was the same. I stood inside the store. The lights buzzed overhead, the aisles stretched away into darkness. Then a hatch appeared in the floor. An old metal hatch, rusty, heavy, covered in chains. Something beneath it would begin knocking. Slow, rhythmic, patient. 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks. Every dream ended when the hatch opened, and every dream ended before I saw what climbed out. I woke up screaming every time. After 2 weeks of this, I made a decision. I needed answers, because the alternative was slowly losing my mind. So I drove back to Red Pine. For the first time since quitting, the station looked exactly the same. Same flickering sign, same cracked pavement, same endless forest. The sight made my stomach tighten. Part of me wanted to turn around, leave, never come back. Instead, I walked inside. The bell chimed, and there was Mr. Harlow, standing behind the counter, as if no time had passed at all. He wasn't surprised to see me. That should have worried me. Instead, it terrified me, because it meant he'd known I'd return. I got a photograph. He nodded. I know. That answer instantly irritated me. How do you know? He sighed. Then he said, because everyone gets one. The room suddenly felt colder. Everyone, the ones who leave. My pulse quickened. The previous employees? Mr. Harlow nodded. I stared at him. Who sends them? For several seconds, he said nothing. Then, the station. I nearly laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was insane. But after everything I'd seen, I couldn't dismiss it anymore. Then I asked the question that had been haunting me. What's under this place? For the first time since I'd met him, Mr. Harlow looked genuinely uncomfortable. His eyes shifted toward the floor, then toward the forest, then back to me. Finally, he whispered, nothing that's supposed to be here. I waited. He continued, the station wasn't built to contain something in the forest. My stomach dropped. What? That's the lie. The room became silent. The forest grew around it. I stared at him, unable to speak. What do you mean? Mr. Harlow looked exhausted. The station came first. Everything else came afterward. I felt dizzy. The building was less than 70 years old. I knew that. I had seen records, photos, construction permits. Yet somehow I knew he wasn't lying, because the station itself felt older, much older, like something wearing the shape of a gas station. Then he handed me a key, an old brass key, tarnished, heavy. I stared at it. What's this? The storage room. I've been in the storage room. His voice was firm. You've been in the first storage room. My pulse stopped. The first? There are 2. I suddenly remembered something. During every shift, there had always been a locked door in the back. A door I'd never questioned, never investigated, never opened. Until now. Mr. Harlow pointed toward the hallway. You wanted answers. I swallowed. Then I took the key and walked toward the back. Every step felt heavier than the last. The hallway lights buzzed overhead. The air smelled stale, dusty, old. At the end of the corridor stood the door. Gray metal, no markings, no label, just a lock, waiting. My hand trembled as I inserted the key. The mechanism clicked, the door slowly opened, and cold air rushed out. Not cool air, cold, freezing cold, like opening a freezer. I stepped inside. The room beyond wasn't a storage room. It was a staircase, descending underground, far underground. The steps disappeared into darkness. I turned around. Mr. Harlow was gone. The station was silent, empty. And somehow I knew. The choice was mine now. Leave or continue. Every instinct screamed at me to leave. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. It's what got me this job, it's what made me look into the 8th aisle, and it's what made me start walking down those stairs. The deeper I descended, the older everything looked. Concrete became stone. Stone became something else, something I couldn't identify. The walls were covered in strange carvings, symbols, thousands of them, none of them familiar. Yet somehow they felt wrong to look at, like my eyes couldn't fully understand them. After what felt like 10 minutes, I reached the bottom and found a door, an enormous black door, at least 20 feet tall, covered in locks, chains, and warnings. Not written warnings, scratched warnings. Hundreds of them, in different handwritings, different languages, different ages. Some looked centuries old. One message had been carved deeply into the metal. 4 words, do not open it. The words repeated again, 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 hundreds of times, as though generations of people had left the same warning. I slowly stepped closer, a sound from the other side. 3 knocks. Pause, 3 knocks. 3 knocks. The exact sound from my dreams. My blood turned to ice, because I suddenly understood something. The dreams weren't dreams, they were memories or messages. Something beneath the station had been trying to reach me, trying to guide me here. Then I noticed something horrifying. One of the chains was broken, freshly broken, as if it had snapped recently. And another chain was hanging loose, slowly swaying, as though someone had just touched it, or something. Then came a voice from the darkness beyond the door. Not loud, not threatening, just curious, and horribly familiar, because it sounded exactly like my own voice. Ethan. The knocking stopped, complete silence followed, then the voice spoke again. And what it said chilled me more than anything I'd ever heard. You're late. The thing wearing my face. The voice behind the black door sounded exactly like me. Not similar, not close. Exactly. Every inflection, every pause, every tiny imperfection. It sounded more like me than recordings of my own voice. Ethan. The sound echoed through the underground chamber. My legs refused to move. I stood frozen before the door, staring at the broken chain, listening, waiting. Then the voice spoke again. I've been waiting. The words were calm, almost friendly. That somehow made them worse. Because friendly things don't belong behind giant black doors covered in centuries of warnings. I backed away. The voice laughed. And hearing my own laugh from the other side of that door nearly broke me. You're afraid. No response. You should be. The chains rattled. A metallic clink echoed through the darkness. One of the locks moved by itself. My heart nearly stopped. Then another lock shifted. And another. Something was happening, something very bad. I turned and ran. Not walking, not jogging, running. I sprinted up the stairs. The voice followed me. Not physically. It echoed through the stone walls, through the floor, through my skull. Ethan. Ethan, Ethan. Each repetition sounded closer, more amused, like it enjoyed watching me panic. I reached the top, burst through the door, and slammed it shut behind me. The station was empty. No customers, no Mr. Harlow, nobody. Only silence. Then I heard a bell. The front door. Someone had entered. My pulse spiked immediately. I hurried toward the counter and froze. Standing inside the store was me. Not someone who looked like me, not someone similar. Me, same height, same face, same clothes, same scar on my chin from a bicycle accident when I was 12. Everything. The copy smiled, my smile, only wider, far wider, too wide. Ethan, it said, using my own voice. We finally meet. Every instinct screamed at me to run. Instead, I stood there, unable to process what I was seeing. The thing tilted its head exactly the way the raincoat man had. Bones cracked softly. Then it laughed. "You're disappointing." The fluorescent lights flickered overhead. The copy looked around the station, then back at me. "Do you know how long I've been watching you?" I didn't answer. The smile widened. "Since before you applied?" My blood ran cold. Before I applied? That made no sense. The creature stepped forward. The air pressure changed instantly. The entire building groaned. Shelves rattled, glass vibrated, as though reality itself disliked having it here. Then it said something that changed everything. The job posting wasn't for a cashier. Silence. It was for a replacement. I stared. The creature continued. "The station chooses people." My hands shook. "What are you?" smiled. For the first time, genuine excitement appeared in its eyes. A very old question. Then its expression changed, and suddenly it looked sad. Terribly sad. "I don't remember." That answer frightened me more than anything else because it sounded honest. The creature looked toward the floor, toward the underground staircase hidden beyond the walls. "I've been here a very long time." Its voice became distant. So long that I forgot my own name. A pause. "But I remember yours." The lights flickered again, and for a split second, the illusion failed. I saw its true shape, only for an instant, but that instant was enough. Its body unfolded impossibly. Limbs stretching in every direction, hundreds of eyes, countless mouths, shapes that didn't belong in the physical world. Then it was human again. My knees nearly gave out. The thing noticed and smiled. Most people screamed. I couldn't speak. The copy looked disappointed. Then the front door suddenly opened. The bell chimed. The creature immediately stopped smiling. Every expression vanished from its face. The old woman had entered, the one searching for her husband. For the first time, I saw fear. Real fear. Not in me, in the creature. The old woman slowly entered the station. She wasn't looking at me. She wasn't looking at the shelves. She was staring directly at the thing wearing my face. The creature took a step backward, then another. The old woman spoke, and her voice sounded different than before. Older, much older than language itself. "You are not supposed to be here." The creature's smile disappeared. The room became silent. Then the old woman looked at me and said something I still think about years later. "None of us are." My pulse stopped. "None of us?" The raincoat man, the little girl, the voices, the figures in the woods, all of them. Not supposed to be here. The creature's eyes narrowed. Then suddenly the station shook violently. Every light exploded at once. Darkness swallowed everything. I heard screaming. Not human screaming. Something much worse. The floor cracked. Walls split apart. The sound of chains echoed from below. The black door. Something was happening beneath us. Something catastrophic. Then a single emergency light flickered on. Red, dim, terrible. The creature was gone. The old woman was gone. Everyone was gone. I stood alone inside the station. Then the security monitor activated by itself. All 9 cameras appeared. Every single one, including the 9th, the forest camera. The image made my blood freeze. Hundreds of entities surrounded the station. The raincoat man, the little girl, dozens of figures I'd never seen, thousands of eyes watching, not attacking, not approaching, waiting, as though they were witnessing something important, something historic. Then every camera suddenly pointed downward, toward the ground beneath the station, toward whatever existed under the black door. The monitor crackled. Static filled the speakers. Then a message appeared on every screen. A single sentence. I stared, unable to breathe, because I finally understood. The station wasn't protecting people from the things outside. The station was protecting the outside world from the thing below, and somehow that thing had chosen me. Then the floor beneath my feet cracked open, and from the darkness below, a giant hand reached upward. A hand larger than a car, and it was wearing my face. The face beneath the world. The hand shouldn't have existed. Nothing that large should have existed. Nothing that large should have had a face, and nothing, absolutely nothing, should have had my face. Yet there it was, rising from the darkness beneath the shattered floor. A hand the size of a truck, pale, covered in cracks, and in the center of its palm, my smiling face. The smile slowly widened. I stumbled backward. The floor continued collapsing around me. Chunks of concrete disappeared into the abyss below. The entire station screamed. Metal twisted, glass shattered, walls split apart, and beneath everything I heard chains breaking. Thousands of chains, one after another, like something was finally standing up. The face in the giant hand opened its eyes, my eyes. Then it spoke. Ethan. Its voice came from everywhere. The walls, the ceiling, the floor, inside my skull. The sound nearly dropped me to my knees. For months I had thought the thing behind the black door was the monster. I was wrong. The thing behind the black door wasn't the prisoner. It was the lock. And whatever had been locked away was waking up. The giant hand continued rising. Then another emerged, and another. The darkness beneath the station churned, moving, breathing, expanding. Something enormous was unfolding below, something far too large to fit beneath the building, which meant one horrifying possibility. It wasn't beneath the station. The station was built on top of only a tiny part of it, like a bandage covering a wound that stretched far deeper than anyone realized. The emergency lights flickered. Then I heard footsteps, not below, not outside, behind me. I turned. Mr. Harlow stood in the ruined store. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked defeated. Not scared, not worried. Defeated, as though he had known this day would come and had spent years trying to delay it, only to fail. The old man looked at the giant hand, then at me. Finally he spoke. It knows you now. The words hit me harder than anything else, because deep down I already knew. The photographs, the dreams, the voices, the copy wearing my face. All of it. It had never been random. Something had been studying me, becoming me. Why? I asked. My voice barely worked. Mr. Harlow stared into the abyss, then answered, "Because you're the next one." I felt sick instantly. The next what? The old man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he pointed toward a photograph lying among the debris, one I hadn't noticed before. I picked it up and nearly dropped it. The image showed Red Pine gas station. Not recently, decades ago. The station looked brand new. Standing in front of it was a young employee, smiling. I recognized him immediately. Not because I'd met him, because he had my face. Exactly my face. The photo was dated 1972. I stared at it, unable to process what I was seeing. Then another photograph, and another, and another. Each one showed a different employee, different decade, different clothing, different era, but every single one had my face. 1972, 1973, 1974, 1976. The dates became impossible. The station shouldn't even have existed, yet the photos continued. Hundreds of years, the same face, always the same face. My face. The realization hit me like a freight train. The thing wasn't copying me. It had copied countless others before me, and now it was using me. I wasn't special. I was simply next. Then, Mr. Harlow revealed the truth. The station chooses someone every generation. The giant hand continued rising behind him. The chosen person becomes an anchor, a pause, an identity, another pause, a mask. I felt my stomach twist. A mask for what? Mr. Harlow looked directly at me, and for the first time, I saw tears in his eyes. For it. Silence. The meaning settled slowly, terribly slowly, like poison entering my bloodstream. The thing below wasn't escaping physically. It was escaping through people, through identities, through lives, through memories. It survived by becoming someone else. Again, and again, and again, for centuries, maybe longer. The giant face in the hand smiled wider, as if it knew I finally understood. Then every emergency light exploded. Darkness swallowed the station. And in that darkness, something spoke. Not the creature. Something else. A voice older than anything I'd ever heard. A voice that sounded like mountains collapsing, like oceans draining, like stars dying. and it said, "I remember." The entire world seemed to pause. The hand froze. The abyss stopped moving. Even the forest became silent. Then the voice spoke again. "I remember my name." And for the first time, the giant hand looked afraid. Actually afraid. The darkness below recoiled. The station trembled violently, and something began rising from even deeper below. Something the giant thing hadn't expected. Something it feared. Mr. Harlow whispered a single sentence, a sentence that chilled me more than anything else that night. "The jailer is waking up." The jailer, not the prisoner. The thing that had been keeping the prisoner trapped. And somehow, that sounded even worse. Because if a creature capable of imprisoning this nightmare existed, what kind of monster was it? The abyss erupted. A blinding white light exploded upward. The giant hand screamed. The sound shattered every remaining window. The face twisted in agony, and for the first time, the thing wearing my face stopped smiling. Then a shape emerged from the light. Not dark, not monstrous, just impossibly bright. Too bright to understand, too bright to look at. Yet somehow I knew one thing. It wasn't here to save us. It wasn't here to rescue anyone. It had only one purpose: containment. And anything standing between it and that purpose would be destroyed, including me. The light hurt to look at. Not because it was bright, because it was wrong. Imagine staring directly at the sun. Now imagine the sun staring back. That was what it felt like. The thing rising from beneath the station wasn't glowing. It wasn't emitting light. It was light. My eyes watered instantly. My head pounded. My thoughts became slow and fragmented. The giant hand wearing my face recoiled deeper into the abyss, and for the first time since I'd encountered it, it looked terrified. Actually terrified. The face twisted. The smile vanished. Then it spoke. No. Just one word. But it sounded like a child caught doing something forbidden. The light continued rising. The station shook violently. Chunks of ceiling collapsed around us. Concrete cracked. Metal supports bent. The entire structure was dying. Mr. Harlow grabbed my arm. "Move." I didn't argue. We ran. The floor continued breaking apart beneath us. Behind us, the abyss expanded. The darkness below and the impossible light above collided. Neither looked natural. Neither looked good. Yet somehow, the light felt worse. Because darkness can hide things. The light revealed them. And what it revealed was horrifying. For a split second, I saw the true shape of the thing beneath the station. Not the hand, not the face, the real thing. My brain couldn't fully process it. It looked larger than the forest, larger than the town, maybe larger than the earth itself. Impossible geometries folded inside its body. Faces emerged and vanished. Entire landscapes seemed trapped beneath its skin. And among those countless faces, I saw something horrifying. People. Thousands of people, smiling, crying, screaming, all trapped within it, all becoming part of it, generation after generation. The masks. Mr. Harlow had been right. It survived through identities, through lives, through memories. Then I noticed something even worse. One of the faces was mine. Not a copy, not a future possibility. Mine. Already there. As if some part of me had belonged to it long before I was born. The realization hit me so hard I nearly collapsed. The creature noticed. Thousands of eyes turned toward me simultaneously, and every mouth opened. Then all those voices spoke together. Ethan. The sound shook the station. Ethan. Again. Again. Ethan. Again. Like a prayer or a claim. Something inside me responded. Not physically, not emotionally, something deeper. A strange sense of recognition, like hearing a song I hadn't heard in years. Like remembering a forgotten childhood memory. And suddenly, I understood why I'd gotten the job. I hadn't found the listing. The listing had found me. The thing had been calling me long before I ever opened my laptop, long before college, long before childhood, maybe before I was even born. The thought nearly drove me insane. Then the light spoke. The jailer. Its voice wasn't loud, yet everything stopped to listen. The darkness, the forest, the station, even the giant creature. Everything. And the jailer said, "Containment breached." Those two words carried unimaginable weight. Not anger, not hatred. Duty. Pure duty. The giant thing immediately began retreating, pulling itself deeper into the abyss, trying to escape, trying to hide. The jailer continued rising. Then something extraordinary happened. The entities outside the station appeared. All of them. The raincoat man, the little girl, the old woman, the whispering voices, the shadows, the watchers, hundreds, perhaps thousands. They emerged from the forest, not attacking, not hunting, watching, witnessing, like spectators at an execution. The old woman stepped forward. For the first time, she no longer looked sad. She looked ancient, unbelievably ancient, older than history, older than civilization. She stared into the abyss, then quietly whispered, "It's happening again. Again." That word terrified me. Again implied this wasn't the first time. Mr. Harlow heard it too. His face went pale. Then he asked her something that made my stomach drop. "How many times?" The old woman smiled, not happily, the smile of someone remembering a tragedy. "More than the stars above us." The station became silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then she looked directly at me and said, "You're the first one to survive this long." I stared. What am I? The question escaped before I could stop it, because I wasn't asking who I was anymore. I was asking what. The old woman studied me, then answered, "You're a key." The words echoed through the ruined station. A key. Not a victim, not a cashier, not an employee. A key. Then everything clicked into place. The job, the rules, the dreams, the photographs, the voice. None of it had been random. The station hadn't chosen me. The prisoner had. And the jailer had allowed it, because both of them needed the same thing. Me. The realization nearly made me sick. I wasn't caught between good and evil. I was caught between two ancient forces, and both had plans for me. The giant thing suddenly stopped retreating. Thousands of eyes turned toward me. Then every voice spoke together. "Come home." At the exact same moment, the jailer spoke. Lock restored. The light intensified. Reality itself began bending. The giant creature screamed. The abyss folded inward. The station trembled, and I realized what was about to happen. The prison was closing. Again. The cycle was restarting. Again. Everything was returning to normal. Again. But one question remained. If the prison closed, what would happen to the key? Every eye in the abyss turned toward me. The jailer turned toward me. The old woman turned toward me. Even Mr. Harlow looked at me, as though they all knew something I didn't. Then the jailer spoke one final sentence, a sentence that changed everything. The key must choose. And suddenly I understood. The cycle had never been about imprisonment. It had never been about escape. It had always been about a choice. And somehow, for reasons I still didn't understand, that choice belonged to me. The problem was that I had no idea what either option would do. And deep down, I suspected one of them would end the world. The jailer said I had to choose. Then everything stopped. Not slowed, stopped. The collapsing station froze. The falling debris hung motionless in the air. The dust stopped drifting. The trees stopped swaying. Even the giant thing beneath the abyss became still. Only 4 of us could move. Me, the jailer, the prisoner, and the old woman. Everyone else became statues. Mr. Harlow stood frozen beside me, mid-step, eyes wide. The silence that followed was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. No wind, no breathing, no heartbeat, nothing. The jailer descended. Its form no longer hurt to look at, not because it had changed, because my mind was adapting. I still couldn't comprehend its true shape, but now I could perceive pieces of it. A figure made of impossible light, thousands of geometric patterns moving beneath its surface, ancient symbols orbiting around it like planets. The prisoner rose from the abyss, and for the first time, I saw its complete form. I immediately wished I hadn't. It looked different every second. One moment it resembled a human, the next it resembled a city, then an ocean, then a storm, then something too alien for language. Its countless faces shifted continuously. Thousands, millions, perhaps more. Among them, I saw people from every era imaginable. Ancient kings, farmers, children, soldiers, scientists, entire generations, every identity it had ever worn. And among them, I kept seeing my own face, again and again, and again. The prisoner smiled. Its voice was softer now, almost gentle. "You've always belonged to me." The words sent a chill through my body. The jailer immediately responded, "False." The prisoner laughed. The sound echoed across reality itself. "Then why does he remember?" The jailer became silent. For the first time, it didn't answer immediately. That terrified me, because up until now the jailer had seemed absolute, certain. Now it looked uncertain. The old woman stepped forward and finally spoke. "You deserve the truth." She wasn't talking to the jailer. She was talking to me. Then she touched my forehead. The world exploded. Suddenly I was somewhere else. Not the gas station, not the forest. Nowhere, everywhere. I floated in endless darkness, and before me stood two enormous entities, the jailer and the prisoner. Except they looked different, much younger. If beings like that could even be called young, I watched them create stars. Entire galaxies emerged from their movements. Civilizations rose and fell beneath them. Time passed in seconds, thousands of years, millions, billions. Then I understood, and the prisoner weren't enemies, not originally. They had once been the same thing, a single entity, a mind so vast it existed beyond reality itself. Then something happened. A division, a fracture, a choice. Half became order, half became freedom. The jailer and the prisoner. Neither good, neither evil, just opposite. The vision continued. The prisoner wanted endless possibility, endless change, endless transformation. No rules, no boundaries. The jailer wanted stability, structure, containment. Neither side would compromise. Eventually, reality itself became the battlefield. And the first prison was built, not out of hatred, out of necessity. The vision shifted. I saw countless cycles, the prisoner escaping, the jailer sealing it away. Again, and again, and again, more times than human history could record. Then I saw something else, keys. Thousands of them. Humans, chosen throughout history, people connected to both entities, people capable of deciding how each cycle ended. Most failed, many died, some went insane, none succeeded, until now. The vision shattered. I returned to the station, back to the frozen moment. The old woman lowered her hand. Tears filled my eyes because I finally understood what I was. I wasn't a victim, I wasn't chosen randomly. I was descended from every previous key, every generation, every cycle. The connection had been passed down for longer than civilization itself. And now it had reached me. The prisoner smiled. "Now you understand." The jailer remained silent. Then the prisoner continued. "Open the prison." Its countless faces looked hopeful. Not malicious, hopeful. Let existence evolve. The jailer spoke immediately afterward. "Restore containment." Its voice contained neither threat nor emotion, only purpose. Preserve reality. I looked between them, then asked the question that mattered most. "What happens if I free you?" The prisoner answered honestly. "Reality changes." The way it said those words frightened me, because it genuinely believed that was a good thing. What kind of change? The creature smiled. "Everything." The jailer answered before I could ask another question. "Humanity would cease to exist as it currently does." The prisoner rolled countless eyes. "Humanity changes every day." The jailer responded, "Not like this." Silence. Then I turned to the jailer. "What happens if I choose containment?" For the first time, the jailer hesitated. That hesitation terrified me. Then it answered, "The cycle continues." I frowned. "What does that mean?" The old woman looked away. The prisoner smiled sadly, and suddenly, I knew I wasn't going to like the answer. Because the jailer finally said, "You become the next guardian." The words hit me like a gunshot. No. Nobody corrected me. Nobody argued. Because it was true. The cycle required a key, and if containment continued, someone had to remain, watching, waiting, maintaining the prison for the rest of their life. Just like Mr. Harlow, except longer. Much longer. Because now I understood something else. Mr. Harlow wasn't 70 years old. Not really. He had been here through multiple cycles, multiple generations, somehow surviving, enduring, paying the price of containment. The old man finally moved. Time resumed around him for just a moment. He looked directly at me, then gave a small, tired smile. The smile of someone who had carried an impossible burden for far too long. And he quietly said, "I'm sorry." Then time froze again. I looked around the shattered station, the place where everything had begun, the place where a broke college student had applied for a ridiculously high-paying night job, the place where 11 strange rules had seemed like a joke. Now I finally understood. The rules were never instructions. They were symptoms, warnings, tiny patches holding together a prison that had been cracking for centuries, and now all of it rested on me. Choose freedom, or choose containment. The prisoner extended a hand, the jailer extended a hand. And somewhere deep inside me, something ancient stirred. A memory older than my own life, a memory from every key that had come before me. And for the first time, I realized there might be a third option, one neither of them had considered, one neither of them wanted me to see. The moment that realization appeared, both entities turned toward me simultaneously. And for the first time in existence, the jailer and the prisoner looked afraid of the same thing. Me. The moment I thought there might be a third option, everything changed. Not around me, inside me. It felt like a door opening, a door that had been locked my entire life, maybe longer. Memories flooded into my mind. Not my memories, not exactly. Memories from other keys, thousands of them. Men, women, children, old people, people from eras that no longer existed, people who had lived and died before recorded history, all of them standing exactly where I stood now. Facing the jailer, facing the prisoner, making the same impossible choice. And suddenly I understood, well, the cycle never ended, because the choice itself was a trap. Choose the prisoner. Reality changes, humanity ends. Choose the jailer. The prison survives, the cycle continues. Neither side actually solved the problem. One option destroyed the world, the other postponed the destruction. Again, and again, and again. The entire system depended on the assumption that only two choices existed. The moment I realized that assumption was wrong, both entities reacted. The prisoner's smile vanished. The jailer became perfectly still. Then they spoke simultaneously. Don't. The same word, the same urgency, the same fear that terrified me more than anything else, because these beings disagreed about everything, yet somehow they agreed on this. The old woman smiled. For the first time, it was a genuine smile, not sad, not tired, hopeful. You finally see it. The prisoner turned toward her, and for the first time, I saw hatred, real hatred, ancient hatred. The old woman laughed softly. "Neither should you." Then she looked at me and asked a simple question. "Ethan, have you ever wondered why the rules work?" The question caught me off guard. Of all the things happening, that seemed strangely specific. Yet I answered honestly, yes. She nodded. Neither of them made the rules. Silence. I stared. The jailer didn't deny it. The prisoner didn't deny it. The old woman continued. The rules were written by the keys. My heart skipped. What? Generation after generation. She pointed toward the station, the raincoat man, the little girl. The voices. The extra aisle, the old photographs. None of them were part of the original prison. They were side effects, cracks, leaks, symptoms, and every rule represented a discovery, a survival strategy, a piece of knowledge passed from one key to another, across centuries. The realization hit me hard. The rules weren't instructions from the jailer. They weren't traps from the prisoner. They were messages. Messages left by ordinary people. People like me. People who refused to surrender. People who kept fighting even after realizing the odds. The old woman nodded. As long as the rules existed, as long as someone remembered them, the cycle was already changing. The prisoner suddenly roared. The sound shook reality. Thousands of trapped faces screamed. The abyss trembled. The jailer brightened, preparing to act, preparing to force the old cycle to continue. Then I finally understood. The third option wasn't choosing one side. It was refusing the game entirely. The prisoner wanted dependence. The jailer wanted obedience. Both required a key, both required someone to keep the cycle alive. But what if there were no more keys? The thought exploded through my mind, and immediately both entities reacted. The prisoner lunged. The jailer moved. Reality itself fractured around them. For the first time since the universe began, they were working together, not consciously, instinctively, trying to stop me, because they both needed the same thing: a participant, a chooser, a key. Without one, the cycle ended. The old woman stepped beside me and whispered, "Now." The memories returned, not thousands, millions. Every key, every life, every sacrifice, every rule. All of them converging into a single realization. The purpose of the keys had never been to maintain the cycle. It had been to learn. Each generation understanding slightly more, passing that understanding forward, until eventually someone would see the truth. Someone would break the pattern. Someone would refuse to choose. I raised my hand. The station began glowing, not with the jailer's light, not with the prisoner's darkness. Something else, something human. The accumulated will of countless ordinary people, the people who wrote the rules, the people who survived, the people who refused to become monsters. The glow spread through the station, across the aisles, across the pumps, across the broken floor. And for the first time, the gas station felt normal, not haunted, not cursed, just a building. The prisoner screamed. The jailer moved forward. And I spoke. The words weren't planned. They simply felt true. "I'm done choosing." Silence. The glow intensified. The prisoner recoiled. The jailer hesitated. Then I continued. "No more keys." The station shook. No more cycles. The abyss began collapsing. No more prison. The prisoner roared. The jailer brightened, both rushing toward me. Then I spoke the final sentence. "The choice ends with me." The world exploded into light. Not destruction, not fire. Release. The prisoner shattered, not killed, separated. The countless trapped faces emerged. Millions of lives, millions of identities, all freed, all returning to themselves. The jailer shattered too, not destroy, released from its purpose, released from endless duty, released from containment. The two ancient beings dissolved into something simpler, something smaller, something whole. For one brief moment, I saw them reunited. Not enemies, not opposites, one. The way they had been before everything went wrong. Then they vanished. The abyss closed, the light faded. The station became still. And time started moving again. The debris hit the ground, the wind returned, the trees swayed, the forest breathed. Everything was normal. Almost. Mr. Harlow looked around in confusion. The old woman was gone, the raincoat man was gone, the little girl was gone, the voices were gone, the extra aisle was gone, the ninth camera was gone, everything was gone. The station stood silent, just a gas station. Nothing more. Mr. Harlow slowly sat down and began crying. Not from sadness, relief, pure relief. The relief of a burden finally lifted, a burden he'd carried longer than anyone should. Then he looked at me and smiled. A real smile. The first genuine smile I'd ever seen from him. "Thank you." The words were barely audible. Then the old man closed his eyes and peacefully fell asleep. This time, for the last time, I never saw him again. The next morning, Red Pine gas station closed permanently. Nobody questioned it. Nobody seemed surprised. Records became strangely inconsistent. Old photographs disappeared. News archives contradicted one another. It was as though reality itself was correcting the damage. Healing. Months passed, then years. I graduated college, found a career, built a life. Sometimes I still think about Red Pine. Sometimes I dream about it. But the dreams are different now. No abyss, no monsters, no voices, just a lonely gas station on a quiet road, and 11 rules taped to a break room wall. A message from ordinary people across countless generations. People who endured the darkness long enough to pass on a little knowledge, enough knowledge to eventually break the cycle. Sometimes I wonder if any trace remains. Sometimes I wonder if the forest still remembers. And sometimes, very rarely, I remember the final thing written on the back of the photograph that started everything. The photograph that arrived after I quit. The one that showed me standing behind the counter, smiling. For years I thought the message was a threat. Now I think it was a warning, or maybe a promise, because the words were true. You never really left. A part of me never did. A part of every key never did. And maybe that's okay, because some places aren't remembered because they're haunted. They're remembered because people survived them. And if you ever find yourself driving down a lonely road at night, and you happen to see an abandoned gas station deep in the woods with a faded sign and flickering lights, don't stop, just keep driving. Because even though the cycle ended, there are still things in the dark, and not all of them follow rules.